Well, hello and welcome back to the very latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, today I am joined by a very special guest. I am joined by the wonderful Harry Alexandra, and she is a relational coach, a seer, a channel, and intuitive healer for women and couples, and she is the founder of the Sacred Flute. She is a guide for women and couples who have become disconnected from their true feelings to heal trauma and reconnect with their authentic expression to call in a deeper love with the masculine. And today I am very, very privileged to have her right here with me. So Harry, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. So nice to be here.
Now, we spoke a couple of days ago and I really wanted to get you on here and to get this going because you have so much that you do that I don't really understand to the same degree that you do. And I'm sure my listeners would love to know how to do all these wonderful things, because so many people have this blocked trauma in their lives that is stopping them from having happy, meaningful relationships. So can you just start by telling me a bit about yourself and how you got into this?
Yeah, that's a good. Where do I start? Well, I had quite a tumultuous relationship with my father when I was younger, and he unfortunately died when I was 9. So a lot of the trauma I experienced with him and then the trauma of his death kind of got compartmentalized for 20 years. And I sort of, at some point as I got older, realized that I was quite unhappy, but it's not until I left the world, I left home even, I went traveling, and I just sort of started to unravel. I was no longer in my normal surroundings, and I started to feel, oh wow, like no one knows me, and who are these people seeing me to be? So that sort of started things. And then I found myself guided towards experiencing tantra and spirituality. I hadn't really done any of that stuff before. And it's not until I found this particular method of healing, this sort of emotional release, that I realized how disconnected I was from my emotional body. And it was just a bit of a wake-up call for me. This is where I realized that I had been hiding all of my anger towards my dad all those years. And as soon as I started opening up to this aspect, lots of other things started opening up. So it's really just been a journey of being aware of what I'm carrying inside of me and learning how to accept that and love that part of myself. Because usually what I would do is spend my life running away from those things, or, turning a blind eye to them and blaming the outside for how I feel, rather than seeing that it's all inside of me.
Yeah, this is such a common issue, isn't it? People have always got these things from their childhood that they affect them into adulthood. And people will either deal with them or they get hold of them and stop them having the full, meaningful life that they deserve. So, luckily, you did something about this. How did you start to learn all this? Did you do it from YouTube, from books, from courses? What did you do?
I went to quite a few retreats, sort of, with this, that were doing this technique. So I learned it through experience, basically, through learning. And I did a lot of hatha yoga and a lot of sort of more mystical stuff, like learning how to use the third eye, so psychic stuff, learning how to see beyond what we normally see, learning how to feel beyond what we normally see. And I think I always had this ability. I mean, every single human does. Everyone can channel and everyone can perceive things outside of them. It's just we don't know that we can do it because we're not taught that at school. So
No.
I already could. I felt like just a natural thing for this. It was just sort of even though it was completely new to me, it was like, oh, I know this makes sense to me. So I delved into that a lot as well. And so it's been the last 4 years of my life, I guess. I've been practicing opening up to my emotional body, doing this full time, really. And I've held space for a lot of people doing this particular work. So I just got a lot of practice at holding space for people, and for myself, how to be with all of the trauma I was carrying inside of myself, which was also really showing up in my relationship. Learning how to not blame the person for what I'm feeling, how to see that it's actually mine, and how to hold myself in that.
So, can you tell me, who are your typical clients? Who comes to you most?
Yeah, I guess uh, I would say women that are already, let's say, sensitive to energy, or so they're interested in yoga, or they've done some I don't like the word self-improvement, but this kind of thing, they've started, my throat, one sec. They've started looking into other ways of interacting with their inner world. And so usually it's women that are a bit more sensitive, and also couples that really want to make their relationship work, both of them, and they've tried, maybe they've not tried anything, but they're both willing and open to going deeper, because my work, it does go quite deep. So it works also if people have never done anything like that before, but there has to be this sort of openness to going beyond maybe what they've normally seen or sort of felt in themselves.
It completely fascinates me, to be honest, because I'm always open-minded to trying new things and hearing about new things, but I'm also a rational guy, and my beliefs are pretty much straightforward. That, well, I do believe in some degree of psychicness. I do believe in that. I think I've experienced enough things myself in my life to know that there's much more out there. This is why I'm so open-minded on it. But there are people out there listening to this and thinking, well, that's all very nice. I don't believe she's making it all up, and she's just, maybe she believes it herself. So how would you argue for that? Because what are your thoughts?
Well, I would say, I remember when I was younger and I thought that my opinion was the most important thing, and my beliefs were, and as I've got older, I realized that we're all living our completely individual reality, because we are, it's not possible, we're all having our own experience. And so whatever experience someone's having, who am I to say that that's wrong, or just because I feel differently? So I actually have come to the point in my life where I love that we all have different views and different ways of seeing the world. Otherwise it would be very boring. So if someone's listening to this and they don't agree, or that's totally fine. I mean, my experience is my experience, and I never feel that I need to push, my beliefs or my way of living onto anyone. It's more just, for some people, they may hear this and they've heard, they just were waiting for a sign or something, and then it clicks for them. But like it did for me years ago, I was also one of those non-believers. I didn't believe in, I really hated religion. I didn't believe in God. I was like, it's all bullshit. Like, I was so angry about life, because my dad had been taken from me. But I was always open-minded like you. And so, I even, when I was younger, did Ouija boards and stuff. I was really open to all that stuff. And I do remember feeling the presence of ghosts and things, but my mind couldn't quite quantify it. So I always remained open. And I think it's good to have that feeling of, I won't believe it till I see it. But at the same time, there needs to be a certain level of openness to even perceive these things. So it's a bit of a tricky one.
It's the same with any sort of coaching at all, really. The same for me. If people don't believe that they can be helped, or believe what my advice is going to be able to help them, they probably wouldn't come to me in the first place. So I think people are very much aligned. They will come to someone that they think can help them if they believe in it. You're not going to get someone that thinks what you're doing isn't correct, and nor am I either. But I love all these things. I read 14 times. I watch Bigfoot documentaries. I want to know what there is out there in this world. And my son's 8 years old. He watches these things with me. I think it's good. But let's get back on track slightly, because this is taking away from what you do. And that wasn't my intention, because you haven't really explained, I haven't asked you yet, exactly what emotional release therapy is and what it involves, because we're sort of building up to this. So can you explain how it works for the typical session?
Yeah, well, like usually we'll have a chat at the beginning, if there's something specific that they are bringing to the session. And sometimes people are more specific than others. And then what I usually do is I'll guide a meditation to take us out of the mind, to get more into the body, to be more relaxed and open. And this creates sort of a connection between the two of us. It creates like a space. And then what I'll do is I call it linking in, or connect with spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, and see what wants to come through for this person. So often it's a mixture of stuff, like there's emotional release, there's also there's coaching, there's questions. So, but all of this, or where all of this is coming from, is just, it's like an intuitive sense. So I'll sense something or I'll feel something and I just go with that. And so I'll just either ask a question or perhaps a sentence might come through to connect with something that's being held in the subconscious. So for instance, say if this person had trouble with their dad when they were younger, there might be a sentence that comes through that says, I wish my dad loved me, for instance. And if that subconscious pain is sort of jogged by that connection, by the sentence, then you can sense like the energy starts moving, or the person, they feel something in their body, or they're just, something moves, something gets activated. And then it's just about holding a safe space so that that can be welcomed, that can be witnessed, and giving it a safe passage to leave the body, basically.
Is it about forgiveness in that situation, or is it just dealing with it and accepting it?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use those terms, dealing with it. It's more being, I guess, open to what's there. It's like, because I feel that all humans, no matter what they've experienced, will carry some trauma. So the first step is sort of seeing that it's there. And it's kind of like with fear, like most humans will spend our whole life running from fear. But what happens is then we just stay in this cat and mouse chase where we're making the fear, more important than our connection with ourselves. And we're constantly running from it, giving it this power. But if we actually stop and we turn around and we just accept that this fear is here, and we're like, okay, you're here. I'm gonna let myself fully feel it. I'm gonna let it like burn through me. Then it loses its power. And actually, I've come to have a really different relationship with fear recently, because I've realized that fear is, it's just trying to protect us. It's like an overbearing protective friend that has served us in our life at some point, and once we get to the point where actually the fear is limiting our experience, we can feel like, okay, this is actually stopping me doing from what I want to do. So how do I create a different relationship with this fear? So all it is that we're creating a different relationship with how we relate to what's inside of us, and viewing it in a different way, not viewing it as something that's so annoying, or I need to get rid of this. It's like, oh, I'm open to this. I'm loving this part of myself. So I hope that makes sense with what you asked.
It does. It does. Everyone's got that to some degree. I can see why that's really useful. When you are doing these sessions, how are these thoughts coming to you? Are they just ideas? Are they words? Are they pictures? What do you experience?
For me, it's quite hard to explain. It's just I receive it like when, say, in your life, or anyone listening in your life, when you just have this sense that you have to do this. You don't know where it comes from. You're like, oh, I know, I have to leave the house right now, or I have to go right now to go meet that friend. It's that kind of feeling. It's like it's like your intuition, basically. So it comes like that. And I sense it. I don't hear words, or I don't see pictures. I just feel something, and then I go with that. So it's quite hard to articulate, but yeah, I would say it's that sort of gut feeling, or that intuition feeling that people often feel.
I do completely understand that, because I have a degree of that myself. I think I have to in order to do my job. I have to be able to read people and to understand things they're not telling me, almost between the lines. So I do completely agree that is very much possible, because if I didn't agree with it, I wouldn't be going 17 years doing this as a job. So I think it's good, and people, therefore, they will trust you. I think it's hard sometimes for people to tell you what's on their mind to start with, though, isn't it? So you said they come with you with an issue particularly in mind. Will that be something quite major or something small to start with?
I mean, it can vary. I guess it depends on where someone's at in their journey. As in, have they been struggling with this for a while and it's so massive and obvious that they can just say it? Or is it they're at a place where they're just starting to sense that something's off, but it's not really clear what it is. So it really depends on them. And it depends on how open the person feels to really be honest with me, right? Because they're just meeting a stranger. It can take time for people to build trust. So I'm also very sensitive to that. I never want to push anyone. I really want people, and just try and like create a safe space for them, so that they, can share this stuff. So that's why also the meditation is really important, because it creates this container between us that sort of holds this connection. And I'm also very open with my own kind of struggles or my own things that I've experienced, to create this like two-way street, like, hey, I've been here, I'm here. So I don't like this sense of, a lot of people that maybe hold these spaces, they can sometimes be like, oh, I'm done, I'm healed, I'm there. And I come from the approach of, I'm not here to heal you, I'm just here to hold a safe space, or just hold a loving space so that you can see this for yourself. Yeah. It's really about that, because no one actually heals us. It's always down to us to let things go. Like, I can't actually go into someone's body and let something go for them. They have to do it. So it's really just giving, learning how to hold space for ourselves, giving someone that space that we likely didn't receive when we were kids. Like, we had a traumatic thing happen and maybe our parents couldn't be present with us. So really, for me, it's about really offering my full presence to these people in these sessions.
You said that it's not an instant thing. Do you have regular sessions with people, or is it weekly, monthly, yearly?
Yeah, usually I prefer to work. I work with people on like a minimum of a month, because I think, I can give people one-off sessions, but when this work is new to people, I like to, it can, and they resonate with it. Usually, like, quite often I'll give someone the first session free to see if they actually resonate, because I don't want people to go into something if they don't actually know how it works, and if it actually feels good for them. And then, sometimes it can take people a while to open up enough so that we can go deeper. And so I like to give time for that also.
You seem to have done a lot of work on yourself very effectively. And the reason I say that is I do feel very, very calm and chilled out talking to you, which I can be chilled and calm out, but but my brain is always active, and I say this a lot on my podcast. I find it very hard to unwind and to relax. But you're chilling me out just talking to you, which is a good thing. So I'm reading your vibe here, that you are so chilled out. So I'm going to ask you something that I've asked a lot of guests recently on the podcast, and that is, do you have daily rituals and things that you do?
Yeah, I have a hatha yoga practice. So just holding certain asanas usually I hold them for 4 minutes, and just working on specific chakras. I find that really helpful. Sometimes I do chanting, connecting with like some of the Hindu lineages from sort of the yogic paths. And even a ritual can be playing with puppies, because for me they're just pure unconditional love. And I've noticed, since having a puppy around, or a dog even, it's such a gift to bring you into your heart, because they're so unconditional in how much they're present with you and there. And so I found that really nourishing, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's funny that having a dog in your online dating profile picture can get you 7 times the amount of response. I think people are looking for this, and it shows if you've got a dog, in any sort of pet attitude at all. It can be a snake, it doesn't matter what it is. You will look at it and think, wow, that person is very nurturing, very calm, and will make a good partner. So I think these animals can do that. They bring this out of you, this side that shows love. But it fascinates me completely. You mentioned the chakras just there. For those that don't understand what that is, can you just explain that?
Yeah, they are. We're all essentially just made of energy, right? If anyone listening are into quantum mechanics, they'll know what I mean. And the chakras are just energy centers in the body that pertain to certain, like, each energy center looks after different organs. So, and they're just, I think there's actually more than what even we know. Like, they say that there's 7 chakras, and I think there's more, but I don't necessarily go so deeply into that stuff, because I'm not so good at the esoteric stuff. It's more just like, hey, what's here? So you have your root chakra, and then your sacral, solar plexus, your heart, your throat, your third eye, and your crown. And these I work a lot with these in my work also, because that can be a place where we hold a lot of blocks. And actually, that's why the name of my business is Sacred Flute, because I see humans, we're a sacred flute, and we're just these flutes of energy, and we have holes in, and if those holes are blocked, then we can't make this beautiful music. Whereas when we start to shift out, the blocks that we hold in our body, which often are centered in the chakras, once they're unblocked, we're just sort of open and flowing, and it's a completely different experience of life. Yeah.
I was going to ask you why you call the company the Sacred Flute, but that makes perfect sense now. I pictured that perfectly, how that would be. That's incredible. Okay. So what would you say to someone now if someone's got these blockages? What action could they take right this second to make themselves feel better?
Usually what I think a lot of people that I work with in the beginning, I notice that there's sort of a disconnection from the earth, or maybe they're not so grounded in their being, because many people, including myself, often suffer with anxiety, which means that we're completely in our heads and we're getting lost in these loops of thought and just creating more and more fear. And an antidote to that I found is, okay, if I realize I'm in this anxious loop or having these reoccurring thoughts which don't feel good, can I take my awareness away from that and come back down into my body, breathe into my belly? And quite often what I gift people or share with people is to do a roots meditation, which may sound a bit wacky, but you can just imagine, I'm sitting on my bed right now, and you can visualize, you can imagine, you can feel. However, everyone has different strengths with their senses about whether they can visualize or hear or see or feel. So just imagine that there's roots growing from your body down into the earth. So down through my bed, down into the earth. And really what it does is it anchors you into your body, and it anchors you back into this moment, because you're just focusing on those roots coming down and you're not lost in your head. And it can be really relieving, actually. And I'm not immune to suffering with anxiety. So this is something that I use a lot when I'm, freaking out or I have things coming up repeatedly. It's like, okay, let's step out of the brain or the mind and the anxious loops and just come back to the body and breathe.
How long does that take, the meditation?
Oh, you can do it for as long as you want, or for as little as you want.
You can do it with me now for a couple of minutes, just
Yeah.
in the podcast. So anyone's listening might find it really useful.
For sure, yeah.
Why not? I'm open to that. Just for a few minutes. Is that okay? I'll close. You tell me what I need to do. Anyone listening can do it as well.
Sure.
Why not? People talk about these things. Just do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Guide me through
it. So close your eyes if you would like. It's because then our energy is more focused on our inner world and we're less distracted. And I just want you to start by taking a big deep breath into your belly, and just allowing the belly to really expand. And just take a few deep breaths just like this. Letting the belly fully expand, letting it fully relax. And then I just want you to start by bringing awareness to your surroundings, by the very thing you're sitting on right now, whether that's a chair, your bed, the floor, just feeling how you're being supported right now by the very thing you're sitting on. And then just allowing yourself to feel all the parts of your body that are connected to the earth right now. So maybe your feet are touching the ground. Maybe you're sitting cross-legged on the ground so you can have your legs connected with the earth. So wherever you feel yourself right now, connected with the ground, I'll invite you to just visualize or feel, grow some roots from this part of your body that's in connection with the ground. So these roots can grow as far and as wide and as deep as you would like, but you're just letting these roots guide you deeper into the earth. And as you grow them, starting to feel how much more you're anchored in your being. And if your mind wanders, that's fine. Just coming back to those roots. Keep allowing those roots to spread into the earth. And whenever you're ready, whenever you're feeling a little more grounded, a little more rooted, you can just come back to your body, staying with the eyes closed if they're still closed, and just feeling how you feel right now. Do you feel more peace? Do you feel more grounded? A bit more secure? A bit more stable? And just noticing, that's all you're doing, just witnessing how you're feeling. And then coming back whenever you're ready, opening the eyes if you haven't already. How is that for you, James?
It was very, very interesting for several reasons. I feel very relaxed now, of course, and chilled out. The two things I've thought about that. First of all, for those that obviously can't see this, I'm looking at you on a webcam, closing my eyes to a complete stranger who I've spoken to once, being very vulnerable in that situation. Not that you can do anything, but you could have been sat there laughing at me, really, couldn't you? But obviously you weren't. I felt very trusting and quite a safe space that you mentioned before. And now I feel even more chilled out now, like I've been smoking weed or something. It's a bit weird. But the other
But sometimes it can have that effect. It's like a natural high, a natural feeling.
But that's the other thing as well. A thought popped into my brain during that. You might laugh at this. You're probably never going to have heard of this. Have you heard of a film called Day of the Triffids? Is that ringing a bell? No, it's a science fiction film. There's been several remakes over the years. It's a very famous film about these plants with all these branches and things that take over the world. So when you're talking about all the roots and things, I was picturing that. So that's probably wasn't a great thought to have, but that's what came into my brain when you were doing that to start with. And I actually sort of chopped those roots down and I got into it. But I found that really useful, and I need to do more of this myself, more meditations. And I always say this, it's ridiculous. I teach people this for a living, and I don't do it myself. So that's my little thing there.
Yeah.
And now I feel so chilled out. I can't even think of any questions to ask you because I feel a bit taken aback now, which is a good thing. And that's why I wanted to do this, because I knew it would have that effect on me. If it didn't, that would be pretty pointless. But hopefully people out there listening, if anyone's done that now, please do write to me and drop the comments and tell me if that helped you. Because we'd love to know, wouldn't we? We'd love to know what happened there.
Yeah, it's such a simple thing that you can use anywhere, anytime. Yeah, I found it very helpful in my journey.
I suppose the journey always carries on, doesn't it? There's no end to it. So what's next for you on your path?
I guess, I think for me anyway, when I first started opening up to self-development or, working on myself, I say that in inverted commas, I think I got a bit, let's say, not say obsessed, but, a bit too into it. And at some point, along the way, I got to this thing where maybe I was, I need to get rid of this. I need to change this pattern. I'd see things in myself that I didn't like, patterns that I picked up from childhood or picked up from my parents. And I'd be sort of hating on them. And I realized as I've sort of, just moved into a deeper space of love that isn't like hating on these parts of ourselves or pushing away parts of ourselves or rejecting isn't the answer. It's not like we have to fix ourselves. There's actually nothing that we have to fix. It's more like an accepting, we're opening our arms, we're hugging these parts of ourselves, because maybe they never disappear. Like, let's say I'm in this sort of calm, chilled space, like you said just now, feeling a bit high. Generally, I'm in that space. But when I get triggered or I get stressed out, I'll go back to those patterns because they're just coping mechanisms. So maybe I've sort of accepted that maybe these patterns will never really leave me. It's just about how I relate to them and how I choose to show up. So if they're there, okay, I see that they're there, but there's not so much of a pull to go completely into these, or whatever I have, like neurotic cleaning patterns or whatever, So
Do you?
I have had that in the past, yeah. I mean, that's something that I've worked on a lot to let go, but I noticed that when I'm in high stress, sometimes the best thing I can do for myself is to clean my room, and somehow that calms me. And that's just one of the ways that I learned to cope with lots of my trauma in my inner world. So I still see that coming up sometimes, and then I just hug myself, and I'm like, oh, you're really stressed right now. Like, okay, let's breathe together. Like, it's just me holding space for me, and like little Harry, and just it's just loving that part of myself. So coming more into that kind of space with myself, rather than, oh, you should be better, or you shouldn't be still doing this. I just sound like a mean person.
I think we all need to be kinder to ourselves in life.
For sure.
We've gone through so much and cope, particularly with the pandemic in particular. We've all gone through so many changes and emotional journeys and ups and downs. And we have breakups, we have new relationships, and the world is not easy. So I think we need to allow ourselves, if you want to have that bar of chocolate, if you want to go do something, watch Netflix for a couple of hours, go and do this. Life is very short. This is what I tell myself anyway, because I can torment myself. Oh no, why don't I go to the gym? I can go for a walk instead. That's much better for me. People make excuses, but let them go. You do what makes you happy, ultimately, what you want to do. Don't force yourself to do these things. And like you just said, it's a good way to have these systems in place and techniques in place. So if you do struggle, you do end up going down, you can get yourself up again. Because life is just one massive roller coaster. As Ronan Keating said.
Oh my God, I haven't thought about that guy for years. I used to love Boyzone.
Did you?
Yeah. They're one of my favourites.
I sing that song a lot to my children. I sing all the time. That's what I do. That's my funny thing. I tell people that if I'm in a good mood, I sing. If I'm in a bad mood, I sing. It's when I stop singing, that's when something's going really, really wrong. And then the solution to me is then to listen to music. So that tends to work quite well. So if it's a quiet house, something's wrong.
Oh, wow.
But it's been so lovely to talk to you here today. If someone wants to find out more about you and what you do, how do they do that?
So my website is www.sacredflute.org. So they can find me there, or I have Instagram, which is sacred_flute. So they're probably the best ways to find me. So if anyone feels called by anything that's been shared today, feel free to reach out. I'd love to connect and answer any questions you might have.
Wonderful. I think all this really is, it's just a start of thinking about new things and getting to know what you do, because people might not have heard of these things before and just open to it. So if this is the start of your journey, you're listening to this, then reach out to Harry and see what she can do, because I think she can do amazing things. And that's just my intuition and my gut feeling. So there you go. Trust that and have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, James.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespriest.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.